Welcome to this episode of the Sports Detective Podcast Show. My name is James Williams, and today the Arch Manning haters are already starting to expose themselves. What are we talking about? Well, as you guys know, Arch Manning is going to be the starting quarterback at Texas for the 2025 college football season, and he is already one of the most hyped up college quarterbacks that we have seen in a very long time. The difference, though, between Arch and a lot of other five-star prospects that we've seen make their debuts over the last few years is that Arch Manning is basically the equivalent of football royalty. His uncles were obviously incredibly famous. Peyton in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Eli for sure on his way. And then his grandfather is obviously an NFL quarterback for a very long time too. So because of that stuff, because of his name, he is getting a lot of attention. He's getting a lot of eyeballs. And also, he is getting put on NFL draft boards for 2026 at the very top of them, despite only playing like 200 something snaps so far in his college career. So, because of this stuff, a lot of people are starting to be skeptical of, hey, how good actually is Arch Manning? And one of those people is Aaron Murray. If you don't know who Aaron Murray is, he was a multi-year starter at Georgia. I think he was a starter there for 3 or 4 years in 2010s. Never really played that much in the NFL. And for the last few years, he's been a SEC commentator. And he went on to a Sirius XM SEC radio show and said, hey, I'm not buying this Arch Manning hype just yet because Arch Manning couldn't beat out Quinn Ewers for the starting job at Texas. We'll go ahead and I will go ahead and play this clip from that radio show, and then we'll react to it afterwards.
I am not sold like so many other people are that this guy is like going to be the number one pick in the NFL draft, that he's going to just be unbelievable, that he's going to be the next coming of Payne and Eli, but that's mobile. Like, I'm like, you know what? And I said this last year during the season too, because I was a big fan of Quinn Ewers heading into the season. I thought Quinn did some good stuff at times last season, but let's be honest, Texas had probably the second or third best roster in America, probably the second or third. Why were they not competing for a national championship? It's because Quinn was holding them back. Quinn did not perform to the level that I thought he could. And then you see now in the NFL draft, I mean, he gets drafted in the 7th round. So even NFL scouts are saying like this guy's just maybe not as good as anticipated coming out as a recruit, or maybe even 2 years ago. So all in all, Quinn Ewers had a disappointing season, and it reflected in his draft stock. If you are so good and everyone has you projected number one pick in the NFL draft come 2026, why in the hell are you not playing above a 7th round quarterback? If Steve Sarkisian knows what he's doing and he knows how good their roster is, which I've talked to a lot of coaches at a lot of different teams, and I asked them, like, what are the top rosters? Ohio State, Texas, probably Georgia. What it was holding them back? Quinn Ewers. Why was Arch not playing? It's like that rubs me the wrong way a little bit. And then you watch the tape, and yeah, it looks good at times. I wouldn't say like it looks incredible. It doesn't scream first round talent to me off the back. And I'm not saying he can't get there. And I'm never going to talk bad about a quarterback because I know how difficult it is. I'm cheering for him like I cheer for every quarterback. I want them all to have success, but I need to see it first. I'm not going to crown you this All-American superstar when I haven't seen you do it. Like right now, I would have a middle of the pack in the SEC when it comes to quarterbacks.
Okay. I got a lot of things to say. So the first thing is with the Quinn Ewers thing, I think we have done a terrible job, and it's not our fault. I think it's a human nature thing. Our first impression of you is always a very lasting impression. And I think with Quinn Ewers, so many of us couldn't get it out of our head with him, the fact that he was like the highest graded like quarterback coming out of high school ever, and people were comparing him like, oh my God, this guy's the next Patrick Mahomes, watch out. I think we can't divorce that from our head sometimes when we talk about Quinn Ewers. Before I get to a little bit more with the Quinn Ewers stuff, he said that this made me mad. He said Texas wasn't a national title contender last year. Texas, the last 2 years with Quinn Ewers as their starting quarterback, made the top 4. They made the top 4. If you look at every single team that played Ohio State in the college football playoff, I can make a very, very good argument that Texas, it might not even be an argument, it might just be a fact, that Texas actually played Ohio State better than every other team. You could maybe make an argument that Notre Dame actually played them better because they made it a 31-23 game. But like, let's be honest, Ohio State was up 31-7 in that game. I think they were pretty comfortable for the most part. And meanwhile, Texas was tied, pretty deep into the third quarter of their playoff game. So it's not like Texas was this like 8-4 team with Quinn Ewers at quarterback. The only teams he lost to his last 2 years as the starting quarterback at Texas was Oklahoma, who was a 10-win team that year, Washington in the college football playoff, Georgia in the regular season, Georgia in overtime in the SEC championship, and then Ohio State. Like, those are all top. 4 of those teams are top 5 teams, top 3 teams, and the other one's like a top 10, 15 team. So it's not like Quinn Ewers was this terrible quarterback that was holding Ohio State back. I know like the interceptions were kind of high this year, a little bit higher than you would like, but like we got to stop this stuff that like, oh my God, Quinn Ewers was like this terrible college. He's a really, really, really good college quarterback. I don't know if there was 8 or 10 guys in the country. Was he top 5? Was he a Heisman contender? No, but he was still a very good college quarterback. And to the part with, oh my God, Arch Manning couldn't beat him out. I think when Arch Manning made his decision to go to Texas, and the way that if you've been following this at all, he really wasn't in a rush to get to starting. Like that, that's where he's different than a lot of other quarterbacks. He's not in a rush to figure out when he's going to start. Now he has the privilege of that with his whole, situation. And even if he wanted to decide to leave Texas, there would be, like 100 different schools lining up trying to get Arch Manning onto their football team. But that the plan wasn't to have him start early. It was the equivalent of, it was a very kind of NFL like system at Texas the last few years. It was, hey, this is Quinn's job. Arch, you're going to be here as the backup until Quinn leaves. And by the way, if Sark was so worried that, oh my God, Arch isn't the guy, why did Quinn go to the NFL? if we were so concerned about Arch Manning being a good college quarterback or a good future NFL quarterback, why'd Quinn rush off to the NFL? I mean, he probably made the mistake. He probably should have went into the transfer portal, and I think Miami would have rather had him than a Carson Beck. He probably should have done that. I also think he got underdrafted. I think people were kind of scared off. I do think it's too, like what we were just talking about earlier with the first impression, like, it's left a mark. And we keep looking at Quinn and you're expecting that top 5 pick. And then you're looking at him like, he's not that. Maybe he's just a career backup in the NFL. But I did want to, and also too, I'll say this about Quinn. If you go through, I just said those wins and stuff at Texas. If you go through, like, was he exceptional? Was he great? No, but he really just never did anything to lose his job. He just didn't. Like, he just didn't. And I was even looking back at that Ohio State game. Like, his numbers in that game were comparable to Will Howard's. Like he threw for 6 less yards. He completed less of his passes, but he had a little bit less of a passer rating. That's just because of the completion percentage. But he threw 2 touchdowns. Will Howard only threw 1 touchdown in that Cotton Bowl game. So it's not like Quinn wasn't a good enough quarterback to win a national championship. Now, was he a guy that, what do they call those quarterbacks? Was he a trucker trailer? He's probably more of a trailer, but that doesn't mean that like we should, use Quinn and maybe where he couldn't, get over the hump and beat Georgia twice or at least once, and he couldn't beat Ohio State, the team that was, dog walking every single team after they lost to Michigan. I don't think we should use that as a reflection for Arch. So I will go ahead now, and I'm going to show you guys Todd McShay, who has a really good podcast now. He's formerly a ESPN draft expert, draft scout, got fired from ESPN because of budget cuts, and now is doing stuff with The Ringer. And he coincidentally, I believe a day after this Aaron Murray clip was kind of circulating online, he did a podcast where he was already evaluating Arch Manning based on the little tape that he has of him so far. So let's go ahead and let's just listen to where Todd McShay is grading Arch Manning as a quarterback already and how he is projecting him for 2026. And I won't show you, like they talked about this for like 30 minutes on his show. I'll go ahead and show you this one little snippet here, and then I'll go into a little bit more detail of what they said afterwards. So let's go ahead and listen to what Todd's evaluation so far of Arch Manning.
And so I want to start with this with Arch. This is kind of all right, I'm done with his tape. It wasn't a ton of tape, but what's out there, I'm done with. And the first thing when I was kind of wrapping up that I started to think was, if he wasn't a Manning, and if he had different financial circumstances, and if he were to go on and show the same level of improvement and growth that I saw from him in a short period of time early in the season, when he was finishing a game against, was it UTSA? And then when he started a game against Louisiana Monroe and started the next game against Mississippi State, if I would, crystal ball it, and even without the crystal ball, based off of my experience and history studying players, like I see that growth in a short period of time. And so if his name isn't Manning, and if he doesn't have the financial circumstances that he does, and if I saw and seeing what I saw on tape and the growth that I expect to see him have, and that's not guaranteed, but based off of those three factors, I'm telling you right now, Mensch, this is my biggest takeaway. I'd have no problem. I'd sleep easy at night writing in Arch Manning, number 1 overall prospect in the 2026 draft, even though I saw 70 key plays, even though I saw 90 pass attempts, and it's just not enough. But it's a projection. Prospects, you have to have projection.
A few other things that people I don't think know about Arch Manning, and they are being this kind of skeptical of him, is I think people just, if they actually took the time to look into it a little bit more and actually who he is as a prospect and even just some of his physical measurables, like Arch Manning's 6'4", 220. Tyler Shuck was injured for like 7 straight years in college football. And basically the reason he got drafted as high as he did was because he was like a big dude that had like a good looking arm and, was a handsome kid and did interviews well. Arch Manning 6'4", 220. If you watch him throw the football, it just snaps out of his hand. He has, he doesn't have like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen arm strength, but he has a very, very good arm. He doesn't have Lamar Jackson, mobility, athleticism, but he has very, very good athleticism. And I think the thing is too, he is learning from not just the fact that he has the genes of the Mannings, he is learning from the Mannings. If you watch him in the pocket, he does kind of have that, the thing that really made Eli and Peyton kind of special is the fact that like in the pocket, they obviously weren't, guys that you would want to see be running 40-yard dashes and stuff like that. But in the pocket, they had excellent footwork. They knew how to, move around the pocket, were agile in the pocket. And another thing too with Arch, and this is the thing that they were talking about later in that podcast, was that he has potential to have like an excellent touch of throwing the football. Like this guy is big, strong, fast. That is the type of guy that gets drafted very, very high in the NFL draft. He is in a very, very good situation at Texas. He is going to have all the receivers in the world. He's going to have a really good offensive line. He's going to have a really good offensive scheme. He's going to have a good run game to rely upon. Arch Manning is going to be really good in college football, guys. And to the thing with the Aaron Murray thing, and I didn't want to be too hard on him. I don't necessarily follow much of his stuff. I maybe listened to his podcast maybe once or twice over the years. It's been a long time since I have. I don't even know how I started listening to it. I think it just auto-played after another one I was listening to. But I'm just warning you guys now, as I'm going to kind of wrap up this video now. This is just the beginning. We're going to have people that are going to be more and more skeptical of this kid as the months go on, as we're leading into the college football season. And if he is not anything short of excellent, he is going to have haters for days. He's going to have people that are doubting him for days. He is going to have people like, if his last name wasn't Manning, bro, be a 3rd-round pick. He'd be a 3-star. If his last name wasn't Manning, he'd be the quarterback of Louisiana Tech, dude. We're just going to be hearing that stuff over and over and over again. Aaron Murray's here on maybe the hot take scale was maybe a little tepid. Wasn't necessarily, hot out of a 500-degree oven. Maybe not out of a fire-flamed, pizza oven, a wood fire pizza oven. Sorry, my brain's like kind of, I don't know what it's doing right now. But I'm just telling you guys, we're going to have a lot more guys like this that are going to come out and be like, I don't know. And then even too, let's say he goes out there, balls out, wins the Heisman. You're going to have people going like, well, what would he be without this awesome Texas scheme, dude? What would he be without all these awesome Texas weapons, dude? I'm just telling you, we're going to be seeing that over the next few months, years when it comes to Arch Manning. And the great thing about sports is we get to see this guy prove it or not prove it on the field. So, yeah, the last thing I will say, and McShay was talking about this in the podcast, is there's a very good chance Arch will not go out for the NFL draft in 2026. Because it would only be his first year of starting. And basically McShay's argument was like, I don't know if the Manning family that, is pretty, I don't know if they're like, helicoptering over Arch with all of his decisions, but they're definitely influencing him to a degree. They don't want his 19th start after high school to be in the NFL. So there's a good chance that he might stay for 2026 and 2027, which is probably phenomenal news if you're a Texas Longhorn fan, and absolutely sickening if you're everyone else in college football. So that's going to do it for this episode here today. If you like this video, make sure you hit subscribe. That's the best way to help us out in the algorithm. It costs you absolutely $0. And feel free to leave a comment what you guys think about Arch, where you think we should be projecting him. How good of a quarterback do you think he would be? I know, it's very, very early on it, but I don't know. I'm kind of sold. Maybe it's the Manning name. Maybe it's all the physical stuff I heard them talk about on that podcast. But yeah, man, I'm excited. Horns down.